Hello, I'm Mila. Thank you for stopping by and welcome to Introverts, Our Feelings Are Valid, the podcast where I share information about our feelings. So hit the subscribe button and like this podcast for more content because I know that introverts love to listen. Today we'll be talking about the introvert versus extrovert state of mind, so join us. Have you ever wondered, what is your state of mind? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? And if you relate to both and feel that you're somewhere in the middle, you probably are an ambivert. Technically, I don't think any of us are 100% introverts or 100% extroverts, but we tend to lean towards one more than the other. All right. Let's discuss a little more. What's the definition of an introvert? So an introvert is a person who tends to be more reserved, introspective, and may feel drained after spending time around people. Raise an eyebrow and nod if that's you. I know that's me for sure. I can tell you how drained I feel after socializing with a group of people or working in a brainstorming session at work. It is super exhausting. But, this is what we have to do. We have to get along in social networks and try to complete our work. So that's important that we learn how to manage some of these anxieties we feel out in public. And something else about introverts, it takes so much energy to be around others. And the longer I stay in these situations, this is what I found for myself. The longer I stay in these situations, the more the stimulants drain my brain. Like after that, I just want to jump into my car and run home, crawl into my couch, do what I like to do, either write or listen to music or draw, do some artistic things that can bring my mind back to a calm space. Yes, so spending time alone is preferred to large groups if you're an introvert, but one-on-one talks or discussions are okay. Like, I don't feel threatened when I have one-on-one discussions with people. I actually feel that I connect with them on a deeper level. And more so, this gives you like a single point of focus, or just focusing on the one person that you're having the discussion with, rather than everything going on everywhere at the same time. It just gets too exhausting at a certain point in time. So introverts by nature are more reflective and thoughtful. They tend to think deeply about things before expressing themselves or their thoughts and opinions. Watch out though. I know firsthand how thinking deeply can lead to overthinking and sometimes even cause decision paralysis. And this makes it harder to close out topics. So for example, like sometimes when I overthink things, I feel like, oh my gosh, if I choose A, it's the wrong choice. And if I choose B, it's the wrong choice. And all of a sudden I'm left with these thoughts, A, B, A, B. So it's quite understandable, just because we tend to put a lot more thought into things. And then we also tend to be critical of ourselves. That's what I've noticed with myself as an introvert and other introverts that I've encountered. The big takeaway here is that introverts are not aliens. Even though we have our own special traits and we're mysterious, it's by design. We're okay with human interaction, but we need time to recharge. Isn't that the truth? Recharging helps us because then we can go back and engage in these activities, get back into the social world, get back to work and be 100%. So listen, it's okay to be quieter and shy when meeting new people. Like, I want to keep things private and to myself because it conserves my energy when I'm out in public. Like, I don't feel the need to talk about myself, talk about things all the time, and because then it leads to more conversations with more people and then you get more drained. It's this cycle. So, what are some ways that introverts can recharge? Because we've talked about draining battery for introverts. We can recharge our energy levels by spending time alone or engaging in quieter and more introspective activities. So, here are some examples of some activities that introverts may like to do. Number one is reading. Introverts are often found reading books. I mean, it's a way to escape, right, into a different world with different imaginations. And so reading is very enjoyable for introverts. They also like to spend time alone with their thoughts and feelings. Sometimes you don't really need to be doing anything, just spending time alone, thinking about things, or meditating, reflection. That's really huge. It helps bring you back, ground you, and that way you feel calm. And then engaging in creative activities like mine's art or design, stuff like that really brings me back to full charge because I love to do it and it's so peaceful and creative. Writing, some people like writing, painting, playing music, just different ways that you can find yourself in a calm place and recharge. And some people like to watch TV, watch movies, relaxing. It's a relaxing environment that you're in when you're watching your movies or your TV shows. And then engaging in low-key social activities. So this is like spending time with smaller groups of people, not necessarily huge, because small groups are fine. It's like close friends that you have conversations with and you connect better with them. And then exploring nature. This one's huge. I love it. When you go out in nature, it just restores you. There's something about nature that brings you back, to a calm place, and it definitely recharges your energy levels. Just taking in that deep breath when it's peaceful, and it just brings back these memories and a place where you definitely want to be. Journaling. A lot of introverts like to journal. It helps you process your thoughts and emotions and gain clarity on your feelings and experiences. So that's definitely a good one. But overall, it's important to recognize that everyone's different and what works for me may not work for you. So the key is finding an activity or an environment that allows you to recharge, and that will be fulfilling for you. So now that we've talked about introverts, let's get into extroverts. What is the definition of an extrovert? So an extrovert is really the opposite of an introvert. Extroverts get their energy from being around people, and they truly enjoy socializing and sometimes being the center of attention. Unlike introverts who just prefer to retreat and recharge in silence by enjoying calmer activities, extroverts tend to be more outgoing and expressive, and they may thrive in social situations. When extroverts spend too much time alone without that human interaction, they may start to feel restless or bored or seek out some stimulation from social circles and activities. So definitely a little bit of the opposite there. They want to be more in the public, talking to people, connecting with these larger groups, and they're not afraid. They're very confident about that. So although extroverts gain energy from socializing and being around people like we've talked about, this doesn't mean that they can do this indefinitely without taking a break. Like no one can go out there and just talk nonstop, right? So just like introverts, they may need some time to recharge their energy levels. And for extroverts, what does this look like? Maybe just taking a little break from socializing, spending time alone, engaging in low-key activities. But the key here is they just do this to rest and rejuvenate, not to close off parts of the social circles. It's not as overwhelming for them, but it could be just because they do it for so long. Let's say an introvert would go out maybe 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours and feel overloaded, where an extrovert could be out there for like 12 hours. So definitely they still need a break after that length of time. But definitely, everyone sometimes needs to spend some time alone, then rejuvenate, find yourself, and then get back out there. So it's important to recognize the need to recharge. So it's not only exclusive to introverts, just like we've discussed. Extroverts also need time to charge their batteries, but it's just in a different way than introverts do. And understanding the need for this can help us better appreciate and support the people around us, regardless of their personality type. So do you know any extroverts? Comment below, because I'm curious if you recognize any of the traits that we've mentioned above about extroverts. Okay, so we've defined introverts and extroverts, but what if there's something in the middle? If you're listening to some of the introvert and extrovert traits and you feel that you're somewhere in the middle, you're probably an ambivert. Okay, what's that? Let's define it. An ambivert is a person who displays qualities of both introverts and extroverts. And for them, it depends on the situation. So they wedge themselves somewhere in between the two extremes. While introverts tend to be quieter and love solitary activities, they find socializing draining. But extroverts tend to thrive in social interactions and simulations. And this is where ambiverts can come in, because they can adapt to both situations and enjoy a balance of alone time and socializing. A good example of this is when an ambivert is in a quiet, intimate setting. They may display introverted characteristics, like being more reserved, more thoughtful and reflective. But in a social gathering with friends or colleagues, the same person may become more outgoing, expressive, and talkative, and then they'll start to display some of these extroverted traits. Ambiverts may also have a greater ability to read social cues and adapt their behavior to the situation. And this really makes them effective communicators and leaders. All right, let's leave the middle and get back to introverts and extroverts. One may ask, what are the main differences between introverts and extroverts? So the main differences between introverts and extroverts are in how they gain and expend their energy, how they process information, and how they interact with others. So next time you're out in public, like at a restaurant or in school in the lunchroom or the gym, or maybe a park even, observe for a few minutes how people are interacting with each other and how you're interacting with the world around you. Become more aware of small cues and reactions and soak it in. Then gauge how you're feeling. Do you feel the need to jump into conversations with others, or do you prefer to sit on the bench under the tree and read your book? I'm really looking forward to hearing what you find out about yourself in these types of environments. So please come back, leave me a comment. Let's dive into what introverts tend to do and what extroverts tend to do. And remember, I'm not a medical professional or a mental health doctor. So these are generalizations, and also you could be somewhere in the middle. As we've discussed above, you could be an ambivert. So introverts, what do introverts tend to do? Introverts gain energy from being alone and expend energy in social situations. They process information internally through introspection and reflection. They prefer deep conversations and one-on-one interactions. They also get overwhelmed or drained by large social events. Introverts need time alone to recharge and reflect, and they tend to be more reserved and quiet in groups. How about extroverts? What do they tend to do? All right, extroverts gain energy from being around people and expend energy when alone. They process information externally through talking and interacting with others. So introverts also enjoy socializing and being the center of attention, and they thrive in large social events. Extroverts may get bored or restless if they spend too much time alone. They tend to be outgoing and expressive in groups. It's more important to note that introversion and extroversion are not black and white categories. Rather, they exist on a spectrum. Most people fall somewhere in between, with some introverted and some extroverted tendencies. What do extroverts think of introverts and vice versa? It's important to note that everyone is different and individual opinions and attitudes can vary widely. However, there are some common perceptions and stereotypes that each group may hold about the other. Extroverts may view introverts as the following. They may view introverts as shy, quiet, or withdrawn. They may view us as antisocial or unfriendly, boring or uninteresting, not willing to speak up or take charge. In other words, introverts may be viewed as not assertive. Extroverts may view introverts as overly sensitive or emotional and slow to make decisions just because we may overthink things or be critical about what we're thinking. On the other hand, introverts may view extroverts as confident and unafraid in social situations or group settings, exhausting or draining to be around because they can go on like the Energizer bunny, loud or attention seeking, superficial or lacking depth, maybe even impulsive, pushy or overbearing, and maybe not the best listeners because they tend to talk a lot and sometimes miss certain cues. I'll say this about the views expressed above. It's important to recognize that these perceptions are often based on stereotypes and misunderstandings. In reality, both introverts and extroverts can be valuable members of society, each bringing unique strengths and perspectives to the table. And by recognizing and appreciating these differences, we can work together to create a more inclusive and understanding world. Have you ever asked yourself how a person becomes either an introvert or an extrovert? Are we born this way? So the consensus among researchers is that introversion and extroversion are largely innate personality traits. This means that they are likely present from birth or early childhood and are thought to be influenced by a combination of genetic, neurological, and environmental factors. Some studies have suggested that introversion and extroversion may be linked to differences in brain chemistry and functioning. For example, one study found introverts tend to be more active in the part of the brain responsible for processing information, while extroverts tend to have more activity in the part of the brain responsible for reward and pleasure. However, it's important to note that personality is not entirely determined by biology. Environmental factors such as upbringing, culture, and life experiences can also shape a person's personality and behavior over time. While introversion and extroversion are typically thought of as two distinct personality traits, in reality, most people fall in somewhere in between on the spectrum. Some people may even exhibit both introverted and extroverted tendencies depending on the situation and context. In summary, while some aspects of introversion and extroversion may be innate, the complex interplay of genetic, neurological, and environmental factors make it difficult to pinpoint a singular cause for these personality traits. This may also explain why some people change over time and become one or the other. Either way, I'm fascinated by both introverts and extroverts because we all bring something to the table. We have traits that complement each other really well, and we can definitely work together as long as we respect boundaries and communicate effectively. What are your thoughts about introverts and extroverts? Do you gravitate more towards introversion or extroversion? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Are you an ambivert? Comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, and please subscribe and click the bell icon for more videos like this. Thank you for tuning into my podcast, and I hope to see you next time. Remember to love yourself and inspire others to be kind. With love, Mila.